right, good morning, people. It's January 14th. I look back at my calendar and it's been 5 weeks since I jumped on a team meeting. Part of it is many of you have probably experienced, if you have kids, the norovirus kicked my ass in December. I lost almost 15 pounds in a matter of 3 days. And then I got a virus going into Christmas, and then I had a pre-planned ski trip to Wyoming, and it was just like, well, all right, this is the way that the dominoes are going to fall. But excited to be back in the room, excited to be delivering team meeting. And one of the things I said I was going to deliver for you on December 17th that I didn't have a chance or an opportunity to do is my 2025 kind of economic and housing update for you. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's not as if it's my own research. I basically took 3 presentations that I sat in last fall and then layered them on top of each other to try and give you a big picture update as to what's going on, a micro update as to what's going on within Wisconsin and local to southeastern Wisconsin, and to try and give you guys an insight as to what's coming and what you should be expecting from the market from a variety of different factors. So I'll deliver that for you today. Cool? Sweet. So with that, jumping into our mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. One of the things that we talk about or that we celebrate is equity and opportunities for all, from the standpoint of people say yes when opportunity shows up. So today, I'm incredibly excited to announce a promotion of someone. God, I don't even know why. Look, it's someone near and dear to me. She was the wizard behind the Oz for 3 years. I've known her since I went to high school, played tennis together in high school. We went to Madison together. She's always been a level sounding board. And with that, I'm going to skip over something quick. Kimmy Herbert is coming back into the operation full time. So Kimmy. Right on cue. Also, logistically, she had to rearrange some things to get here on time. I kind of forgot that she was like, hey, I need about 10 to 15 minutes once you start team meeting. Yeah. We'll get back to it. I was excited. So Kimmy has accepted a role in a promotion. She's been in her role now for almost 8 years. Joining the compliance team, gave up a very successful sales business. Kimmy basically joined the compliance team, like I think almost the same week I joined KW. We kind of did it together. And basically, vibes are going. Kimmy new role is officially the chief of compliance and the managing broker. And so what that means is, as we're looking at our organization and how we've continued to grow, how do we put the right structure in place from an accountability, from an efficiency standpoint? So Kimmy will now be leading the compliance team. So the compliance brokers will be reporting into Kimmy. Kimmy will be the voice of reason and the voice on behalf of the firm when it relates to E&O matters, when it relates to DSPS issues. If we are, let's just say, negotiating with the MLS, Kimmy will be the voice of reason. And it doesn't change much of what Steph, Joan, Andrew, Sarah Papp, Dawn Shipley are doing. It's more of how are we creating the right structure around our compliance team and that we're having one voice, a consistent approach, and we're creating efficiencies within our compliance department. And so Chief Herbert is now officially Chief Herbert and coming back into the fold. And this is effective as of yesterday. So Kimmy, welcome back. All right. So I skipped over this because I was excited. Also, is it just from an operational standpoint, next week, Monday, the 20th, our offices will be closed in observation of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Just want to make aware. Got it. How's that? No worries. I can do it again. This is what happens when you don't do something for 5 weeks. That work? All right, sweet. Offices will be closed next week, Monday, which means this is kind of the same time of year. We always have this wonky scheduling. There will be no team meeting next week, Tuesday. Cool? All right. With that, I believe I'm flipping it over to Steph. Steph, common questions regarding the inspection and testing and things that are showing up. What do these guys need to know? Steph, or maybe Joan. All right. Things are off to a great start in 2025. You know what? We'll come back to that next week. Take it, Chief.
I did read through the slides a little bit, so, but bear with me. Thank you, Stoneman. So the WRA has released some great webinars for brokers to tune into kind of on every couple months. And I know Steph and Joan tuned into last week's and talked about some important things that come up that I think the WRA is seeing a lot from a legal standpoint. So, and I know this comes up a lot for you guys as well. So a situation, the buyer has an inspection contingency. There is evidence of water in the basement around the edges of the walls. The buyer did not include any testing contingency, but the inspector suggested a drain tile test. So what happens? How do I go to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, so remember, a test and inspection are defined as two different things. Test is defined as taking a sample to a lab, analysis, and an inspection is defined as an observation. So is a drain tile test allowed under the inspection contingency? So this is a debate even among attorneys. So to avoid any issues or disputes, it is always best to write in the offer a drain tile inspection under the additional components of the inspection contingency. So, if you check the box, that covers your general home inspection, but you can add in the additional blank line that you want a drain tile test or a drain tile inspection. That will help cover your buyer's butts. So another piece, when should a buyer deliver the inspection and or testing reports to the seller? As soon as they receive it. This is a debate as well between different brokers. Obviously, we require that from a compliance piece. The reason being, for our E&O insurance, it's important we have that, but it is also stated in the contract. So a lot of times buyer's agents will say, I don't need to give you the inspection report. The buyer's not asking for anything. It's my buyer's report. Well, per the terms of the contract, they are obligated to provide that to the seller. So they both get the report. Yeah.
Inspection, those blank lines. It says, in addition to, and you fill in anything the inspector deems necessary. Does that cover that without writing the words testing somewhere?
I would say yes. However, you could come to the debate. Well, this is a test. This isn't an inspection. So I think with the drain tile, there's still that, is it a test or is it an inspection? So to be really safe, I would put specifically drain tile.
Here's the testing purchase deals with taking the samples and the laboratory. This test is really about functionality. So
right.
I can see where there's debate and the need to be specific in what you're requesting on the purchase, but I mean, it is an inspection and we're just, that's just what the service people call it, is the testing.
Yep. I think too, it just gives that clarity that buyers have asked for this. So there's really no debate. The sellers can't say no. It's a good question. Thank you. And a good point. When the seller has the right to cure and he elects to cure, per the contract, it says the seller must cure in a good and workmanlike manner. The buyer is not confident that that language ensures the cure will be sufficient. We have always had in our zip form clause library some additional verbiage that you can insert into your offer to purchase to give your buyer some more confidence that the language is going to protect them. And that language states, I I think, did she put it in there? Yep. So in their clause library, seller shall have the right to cure in a good and workmanlike manner using professional licensed experts with the benefit of permit as required and in accordance with blah, blah, blah. So just kind of further defines what does good and workmanlike manner mean. Sometimes you can even expand upon that as well, and that buyer and seller must agree through an amendment of who is completing the work, so you can even build upon that further. Any questions on that? Cool.
Yeah,
I think that's
Thanks,
it.
thanks, Kimmy.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Joan. Anything to add, Joan?
No, you did a great job. I couldn't unmute fast enough, so that's
Oh.
why I thought I was here. But no, the reason we put these in, I know it's repetition for many, many, many of the agents at Keller Williams. It's just that these are phone calls we still get, especially on those three items. So we just thought we would roll it through one more time. Or maybe 2 or 3 more times.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
All right, Linz.
All right, good morning, everybody. All right, so just a couple of quick updates for the group. I wanted to present just a new option for printing your listing and buyer presentations. So I'm really excited about this, and a few of you have already done it. But you guys are probably going to see a few of these popping up in all of the offices. You can now get these professionally printed from Confluence Graphics, which is literally 5 minutes down the road from this office, for only $2.50. And so if you really want to elevate your marketing for 2025 and print out your listing presentation, your buyer presentations in a really professional format, you can now do that for a really inexpensive cost. So again, these are our listing and buyer templates that we have through our marketing concierge, but you can definitely get these templates printed. If you have your own template, just reach out to us and we can help facilitate getting those printed for you guys. Confluence is a local printer that we've been working with for a number of years. I know a lot of you work with them as well. But again, they're 5 minutes down the road on Hampton. They're great to work with, and they only print these again for only $2.50 a piece. So doesn't even matter how many pages. So yeah, reach out, samples in all of the offices if you want to flip through these, seller guides as well. The other thing pertaining to listing and buyer presentations is we now have the updated statistics for 2024. So I know a lot of you have been asking for those. Those are now updated. So reach out if you need those updated. I know a lot of you have already reached out, so we'll get in contact with you guys and get those updated for you. And if you are looking to request this template, either the buyer or seller guide, that is always going to be through our marketing concierge. So you can always go onto our KW Realty MKE.com website, click on the marketing concierge tab at the top, scroll down to the listing and buyer presentation. You can also view an example of each of those templates just to get an idea of what those look like. And we'll personalize those to your brand, your logo, your headshot, your contact information. So we'll put those together for you. That QR code is going to take you directly to that request form. Or if you just need those stats updated, simply email us at kwmkemarketing@gmail.com and we will update your existing listing or buyer guides as well. Finally, we are back at it with tech and marketing training. I know we took quite a few weeks off, but we're back with specialized topics. So this week we are going through a database cleanup. We did this back in fall. It's always a good time to do this again at the beginning of the year or really quarterly. So it's a good opportunity to hop on the Zoom call, ask questions, and we'll go through just different tactics in order to clean up your database in Command. So just note the time change during Ignite. So it's always on Thursdays, but while Ignite is running, it's going to be at 1 o'clock instead of 11. So those are always on Zoom. They're recorded, but I encourage you guys to hop on live and ask some good questions. So thank you. Yes.
What's the turnaround on those presentations?
Yeah, great question. Turnaround time for the listing and buyer guides printed through Confluence, I would say 3 to 4 days. It kind of depends on their workload and their schedule. But for example, I submitted an order for 20 of these on a Friday and I picked them up on a Tuesday.
Sweet. All right. Here we go. Iron sharpens iron. What do you got to do to pay attention to, and what are we bringing to you for training and education standpoint? Right now, we're running Ignite. Here's the key, okay? The success rate at Ignite is so substantially high. For those that show up and do the activities, quite frankly, it's the best return on investment of your time because it's free. And the beauty of it is diversity of thought and diversity of approach. And the reason why I share that with you is some of you are so stuck in your ways that you need to think outside the box around what other people are doing to be successful. And if there is a participant or a panel, or sorry, an educator within the Ignite panel that you desire to learn from, show up. Just show up. We have a group of about 30 to 40 on any given day that are doing this Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it will continue through February 6th. So Ignite is running in the North Shore office this session. Feel free to show up. Next up, January training calendar. Because Ignite is running, we're really leaning into the Ignite calendar, so pay attention there. Next up, in the Southwest office on January 29th, we're doing a blood drive with Versity in the Blood Center of Wisconsin. You're able to register on the 29th. It is going on from 9 to 2 in the New Berlin office off of Moreland Road. And then lastly, in my personal opinion, the best KW event of the entire year is Family Reunion. It's not only what happens within the room of what they teach you and what they share with you, it's what happens outside the room and the connections you can make. The people you learn from, the people you refer to. I remember years ago, Julie Litkin went to New Orleans. She got 4 pieces of referral in the next 6 months, and it more than paid for her entire trip and the networking and building that she built from that. It was exceptional. It is back in Las Vegas this year. You can see we have a lot of fun in Vegas. Vegas has a tendency to bring out the best and worst of people. But it's I really thoroughly enjoy the event because it's an a la carte adventure. You get to figure out what it is that you desire to learn and go seek that out while you are there. And it's a great playground for training, education, networking, and referrals. Cool? Sweet. All right. So now I'm going to go into 2025 economic and housing insights and updates. But first, I want to take a little bit of a look back as to what I predicted in December of last year to see kind of where the market landed. So basically, I said if the market was flat, we all should be happy. And I said if the market was up single digits, we should be ecstatic. And my reminder to the group is you're resilient. You've been through this before. You're not in it for a great year. You're in it to build a great career. So it was time to chop wood, carry water. Now, the reason for when I said this in December of 2023 is we were coming off a period of time in which the market was down anywhere between 25 to 35%. Right? And so a lot of it was making sure that we were testing your mettle and keeping you focused because what goes down must come up. So I shared with you my outlook, and my outlook was, look, demographics related demand are in our favor. Inventory will flat to slightly rise. Prices will continue to appreciate at mid-single digits, and rates, people have adjusted to the rate environment. So my prediction is that there would be a downshift based on what I was hearing and seeing. So how did that play out? Last year, in 2024, in the 5-county metro area, closed units were up 2.7%. Remember, I said if the market was flat, we should be happy. If the market was up single digits, we should be ecstatic. Closed dollar volume was up 10.3%. Okay? Inventory was up 3.8%. So new inventory slightly outpaced closed units, which meant there was an alleviation of people understanding the environment that we were operating in and realizing life factors happen, so they had to bring homes to the market. And new inventory dollar volume was up 12.4%. Okay? Prices, they totally hit. Appreciation, depending on the geographical location, and prices so much is dependent on a very micro neighborhood almost level. Prices were up 7 to 10% again last year. It was a really, really good year again from an appreciation level. And then the only thing that we didn't really hit on in terms of my predictions or outlooks was it was a mixed bag of results as it relates to rates. We had a period of time in July and August where rates came down and there were refi opportunities for those that got into rates in the 8 and 8.5%. They came down slightly and then they bounced back up again, and rates are probably one of the most hardest things to predict. So what I did is I spent the fall, as I usually do, attending things because I am a consumer of content. And what I did was I attended 3 presentations. One is a dear friend of ours who used to live right down the street on Shoreland, who runs the Grass Camp Center for Real Estate at the University of Wisconsin Business School in Madison. Mark Epley gave a presentation in October around the Wisconsin real estate forecast, and I pulled some things from that. The second presentation is I had an opportunity to attend. The Lubar Company hosted ITR Economics, Staying Ahead of the Curve in 2025 through 2026. And it was more around the macroeconomics of our economy, a lot of manufacturing focus, but there were some insights that I was able to derive and to help pay attention to. And then the last presentation that I was a part of was Lawrence Yoon, the chief economist of the NAR, gave a presentation in October. And so basically what I did is I took those 3 presentations that, if you combine all 3, are probably 200 or 250 slides, and I've tried to boil it down to like 40 slides that are probably worthy of paying attention to try and give you guys some insights as to what's going on based on what different people are saying. So what you'll see is 3 different formats of the presentation to try and put it into a content that's relevant for you. Basically, if you look over the last several years, there's 3 or 4 economic trends that various industries go through. The blue lines are recoveries, B lines are accelerating growth, the C lines are slowing growth, and D are industries that are in a recession, okay? And what you see here is housing very much, from a macroeconomic standpoint, leads recessionary indicators and is also the first out of recessionary indicators. And where we are right now is housing is coming into a period of recovery, right? We had 2 years where we were down about 30 to 35%, as I mentioned earlier. 2023 was up just slightly. 2024 was up just slightly. And I'm expecting that recovery to continue heading into 2025. Okay? When we look at, and then what I did is I broke it down into like 3 or 4 major categories. First, let's take a look at sales volume and inventory. Existing home sales, this should be at no surprise, are at Great Recession lows. And it goes back to the whole commentary that I make to you is you're in it for a great career, not just a great year. And if you look here, going back to the 1970s, you can see the period of time that we are exiting in terms of how that plays a part, specifically going back to very similar trends that what we saw in 08 to 10, basically saying if you're still sitting here listening to the presentation or sitting in the room, you were able to survive in advance. Okay, that's the key. And what goes down must come up. Okay, Wisconsin residential sales were flat in 2023. In 2024, they were at 12-year lows. Okay, now, as I mentioned just slightly earlier, the market was up from a units perspective, up 2.7% in the 5-county metro area, but across the state, you can see here in 2024, you know, for effectively, for all intents and purposes, it's the lowest it's been in 12 years. Okay. Now, Wisconsin's listing inventory is up 21% versus August of 2020. Or sorry, August of 24 was up 21% versus August of 23. The commentary here is inventory is starting to thaw. Okay. And people are getting used to what the environment is that they need to make their decisions as it relates to selling their homes. Okay. And the housing supply has loosened. Here, they broke it down by urban classification in terms of months of supply. They broke it down by price point in terms of months of supply. And they broke it down by region in terms of months of supply. I'll focus specifically here on region here for a second. For all intents and purposes, 6 months of supply is a balanced market, okay? For the last 4 to 5 years, we've been operating in an environment where we basically had 2 months of supply. You can see here in southeastern Wisconsin where that has ticked up to 3 months of supply. Still nowhere close to a balanced market of 6 months of supply, and yet you're starting to see indicators where inventory is starting to loosen because life happens and people need to start making decisions as it relates to what's happening within what they do with their real estate. Now, the other positive news as it relates to inventory is home builder new sales is rising. This is across the entire US. You can see here on a month-by-month basis, new homes really took a dive from 21 through April of 23 when the market was absolutely exploding. And then new housing startups across the US really ramped up again, basically in May of 23 and continued into July of 24. And home builders' inventory of new homes has gone up and up and up. Okay. And when you look here at single family housing unit permits by state, Wisconsin across the entire state was up 7.8%. Okay. And so the way that we alleviate some of the supply issues that we've been facing based on the demand demographics that we've had that's created this real kink in the hose is housing startups, permits, and what builders are doing to bring new inventory to the market is a way to alleviate it. The second way to do it, which is I won't talk about a ton today, is multifamily housing startups. Family startups are a way to help alleviate supply issues because it helps people as a good secondary option. And if to get into home, if they're leaving a home to get into a multifamily, we're seeing that here specifically in Milwaukee. If you just look at the amount of high-rise apartment buildings that have gone up from the Couture to the building across the street from the Public Museum to what is going to go on Prospect to some of Tim Gochman's projects. There's been a lot of alleviation of multifamily that has helped some of the supply issues that we're facing in southeastern Wisconsin and new home startups. I mentioned this last year, and this was repeated again this year in Lawrence Yoon's presentation around how delayed sellers cannot wait longer because the locked-in effect is going to be less strong over time. And what he referenced is there were 3.5 million new babies born in the last year. There were 1.5 million marriages. There were 700,000 divorces. There were 3.5 million people who turned 65 years old. There were 2 million deaths and 25 million job switches, all of which creates a potential housing event, right? And so what they talked about is time goes on and the impacts of people's lives continue. They have to make decisions as it relates to what happens with their real estate. Now, home prices. Over the past 49 and a half years, Wisconsin and US and Wisconsin have averaged 5% and 4.6% appreciation respectively. Okay. This is going back to the 1970s. The blue line is US price appreciation. The red line is Wisconsin house price appreciation. Now, what you notice is what we talk about often. In Wisconsin, the highs are not nearly as extreme and the lows aren't nearly as extreme. And that's a good place to be. Okay. And yet when you look at the price appreciation in the state of Wisconsin, a lot of people have built nice equity within their real estate, and helping them unlock that equity sometimes can help them make the decisions they desire. When you look at Midwest year-over-year price increases, this is just this year versus last year. Wisconsin is leading the US in terms of price appreciation. And there's a variety of factors that go into that. And if you look, this is, I think, one of the most crazy slides. If you look at home price appreciation since COVID, 2020 of Q1 to 2024 of Q2, homes across the entire state of Wisconsin are up 54%. 54%. It's insane, right? Again, this is really good positive news and wind that should put wind in your sails as it relates to the health of our industry in the state of Wisconsin and the recovery that we're entering into. Now, inflation in the macroeconomy. How is the macroeconomy impacting our industry? First of all, as it relates to inflation, it was a hot button topic over the last 2 years. It was 2.4% in September, and the target is 2%. So the Fed has really done a nice job of releasing some of the inflationary pressures that we've been facing. Again, the target is 2%. You'll continue to see that target that 2% heading into 2025. Now, long-term real estate demand comes from jobs, and I would argue population. Okay? When you look at population growth from 2019 to 2023, Wisconsin is up 1.5% in terms of population growth. Okay? My personal prediction, and you'll see this here at the end, I actually think that will continue to grow. I don't think that that's going to go away for a multitude of factors that I'll talk about here in a second. When you look at job gains, pre-COVID high payroll employment, Wisconsin's up 2.3%. So what you need is two factors. One, you need people moving to your state, and two, you need people getting employed in your state. If you do that, demand and people's ability to buy real estate should continue to remain healthy for us when you look in terms of like a 5-year perspective for our industry.
What is high payroll?
Record high payroll employment in terms of just overall companies' payrolls have just gone up significantly. So the cost of labor has gone up significantly. When we look at national and state unemployment rates, you know, you can see here the blue line is U.S. unemployment rate. The red line is the Wisconsin unemployment rate, which is interesting. You're starting to see a little bit of a divergent path in 2024. Is the unemployment rate nationally was starting to tick up, yet locally, if you really zoom in, it ticked up slightly, but they are on very divergent paths. And I think a lot of it has to do, if you look specifically within the southeastern Wisconsin region, is to what the M7 and the MMAC has done to really attract businesses, quite frankly, across the border, and bringing businesses from that corridor from the Illinois border up through southeastern Wisconsin. And the amount of jobs that is created, I think, is long-term very positive for our industry. I mean, I would just say anecdotally, if you were to drive to Chicago 5 years ago versus driving to Chicago today, that region looks vastly different. And the amount of economic activity that that region brings across a very wide geography is very healthy and very positive for us looking into it. Now, interest rates, very topic that a lot of people want to talk about. You know, everyone always hates to hear this. It's like the old, well, when I was your age, I used to walk to school for 5. Look, perspective's important, okay? Rates are lower than the average rate the decade before the Great Recession. Rates are lower than the average rate the decade before the recession. Now, people don't want to hear that because they have a recency bias as it relates to, oh, well, what about the 3%, the 3%, the 3%? Something catastrophic would have to happen for us to get back to 3%, okay? So I think people are now starting to realize that and why that's there. But when you look at rates are basically trending to where the new normal is. And the new normal is going to be, if I were to say it, it's going to be between 6 to 7.5%. Just is what it is, right? And trending to the new normal is also the mindset that buyers and sellers are starting to get in as it relates to the decisions they have to make associated to their real estate. And the challenge we've had, and I shared this last year, is 77% of outstanding mortgages are lower than the current rates by 1% or more, which has locked up a lot of that inventory that we've seen over the last 2 to 3 years. 77% of mortgages are below 5, 59% are below 4, 45% are below 3.5. Okay. Now, if you were to compare those numbers from a year ago, those numbers are substantially different in terms of now we've started to see some of those rates unlock. I believe last year, I think it was over 60% of mortgages were below 3.5%. I'd have to look at that to fact check that, but you're starting to see some of those really low interest rates unlock as people trade up or have life events or whatever that might be. The cumulative default rates on loans. How many people heard during COVID, oh my gosh, we're going to have this huge delinquency rate and all these other things? It's less than 1%. Okay, people are gainfully employed and they're making good money. They'll be able to afford the real estate they're in. And the mortgage industry coming out of 2008 has done a nice job of making sure that they are effectively lending people the appropriate amount of money in order for them to afford it. So the delinquency rates being less than 1%, that whole thing can move on. And I think it, quite frankly, already has. So housing demand and supply. Household growth demand continues to be strong. What that means is households are growing. You're hearing of this declining birth rate and things. And yes, that's a factor. I would tell you, micro level, I was pinged by the school district recently because the K-4 grade in the Whitefish Bay schools was lighter than it has been in years past. So they're trying to identify what that looks like and how is housing impacting that. But overall, across the U.S., household growth is strong in terms of marriages, people having babies, so on and so forth. Housing supply is also not kept up with demand. So as we've seen this influx of demand, and we've talked about in the past, the largest demographic in the U.S. labor force is 21 to 35. As those people are coming of age, and the average age of a first-time home buyer last year was 37.5 years old, we just have not had the supply alleviation for this influx of demand from a demographic standpoint that's entered the market. And yet, Real estate generates 31% of the US household wealth. It still remains really, really strong in terms of a wealth creation opportunity for people's balance sheets. And you can see, let's just say the millennials, 21 to 35, largest demographic in the US labor force, they are just entering that wealth creation age. And the baby boomers, for all intents and purposes, it's helping them unlock that wealth creation and what they do with those homes. And you'll continue to see that generational shift of transfer of real estate continue to happen over a period of time. And the other interesting thing that we've kind of dealt with as of late is interest rates and house prices make home ownership a bit more costly right now than renting. Now, I think you're going to start to see how that plays out here in the short term to long term. But because there's been an influx of supply, I would say just specifically within the southeastern Wisconsin region, and the cost of capital going up, aka mortgage rates, it has made this interesting juxtaposition of what is cheaper within the moment on somebody's monthly expense ratio, right? In terms of if they have to make a decision, what can they afford? However, over time, it goes back to the whole concept of time in the market beats timing the market, and compounding returns as it relates to appreciation of real estate still makes for a very, very healthy asset to have on your balance sheet. And so when you look at wealth comparison between owners and renters, we've talked about this a lot, it's substantially different. And it's helping people understand how do they make sense of their monthly budgets to afford real estate so they can access the wealth creation that real estate provides. Make sense? Cool. And so where is this going? Existing home sales are going to continue to rise over the next 3 to 4 years back to pre-COVID levels that what we saw from 2010 to effectively 2020, okay, on a national scale. When you look at what Fannie Mae, the Mortgage Bankers Association, and National Association of Home Builders are predicting over from 21 to 25 and then heading in and what the changes were, basically everyone's continuing their prediction is that tide will continue to rise heading into 25, 26, and 27. I would say from a 3-year perspective within our industry. So what's my outlook? I tried to boil it down in very simplistic terms for you in 6 bullet points. 1, macro trends. You're going to see stabilizing mortgage rates and improving buyer demand. Okay, people are in the new normal. 2, economic indicators. We have strong GDP and household growth support long-term housing demand. 3, demand. We will continue to be strong and in our demand will continue to be strong and in our favor. The region in southeastern Wisconsin is growing, albeit slowly. Labor demographics continue to be in our favor. Sales and inventory opportunities will emerge with inventory levels thawing and migration patterns in our favor in Wisconsin. 5, price trends. We'll see steady appreciation to provide confidence in housing investments continuing to outpace inflation. And 6, multifamily insights. I think there's a concern in southeastern Wisconsin that it could be slightly overbuilt, which could be a bit cautious but opportunistic outlook. Now, where do I think we're going? Here's my predictions for 2025. I think closed units will be up single digits. If you were to say, what do you think that number will be? I think it'll be anywhere between 4 to 6% on closed units. That's a guess. It's a total guess. Closed dollar volume, the market I think will be up again 7+%. I think appreciation will continue to be healthy based on the demand. Rates, I do expect a downshift. I think it will create an opportunity for a refi environment as it relates to paying attention to your clients and how do you add value in the clients you've had over the last 2 to 3 years. I think there will be an opportunity as how you educate your clients so that they continue to be your clients for the long term. Housing is an asset. People will continue to value of owning a home with continued realization of younger generations of wealth building opportunities to enter the market. There will be new home ownership opportunities. I also believe there will be an influx of young investors entering the market. They will be looking for ways because they'll say, the S&P 500, I've heard this, the S&P 500 is up so substantially over the last 5 years. And so has real estate, but yet I don't need to access this liquidity right away. I'm doing well as a young professional. I think there will be an influx of young investors into the market. And here's something that I've been kind of stumping on for our region in particular is, I say Midwest, but I'll just say Wisconsin. Wisconsin as a region will continue to grow. I believe in the economic activity is on the rise of attracting businesses in our region. I think the other thing that we're seeing much more of that is making people understand or consider their options is there is a very low incidence of natural disasters and abundance of fresh water. And low natural disasters and fresh water will become a real decision point for families as they look about geographically where they want to live and what they're going to do. Yeah. Cost of home. I mean, you're seeing it right now. If you just look at Florida in particular, the cost of insurance alone. So, all right. With that, all the slides are available to you online. And guys, it's a great day. Thanks for showing up. There's not another slide. No. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. I don't know what to do. Hey, you.
So it's some of y'all are familiar. Every year, the Milwaukee Business Journal puts together their list of the top 40 young professionals under the age of 40 years old. This year there were over 400. Sorry, there were over 400 people who were nominated for this recognition. This is not just about being great at your job; it's about being great for your community. And this year, our fearless leader was recognized as one of the 40.
Look, I don't really know what to say. Here's what I tell you. So I've watched this list for like 10 years. And if you know anything about me, I'm a very competitive person. And I was like, all right, just do more, be more. And part of it, like, I'll just say it very selfishly, you work hard, and everybody works hard to try and earn recognition. But like for me, I think I've been on this journey from a leadership standpoint. That like we've built a community, and that community, it's not lost on me the influence that I have in that community. And how do I use that influence to do good? And whether it's helping agents, whether it's my involvement with Boys and Girls Club, whether it's my involvement with ACTS, housing, or St. Aug Prep, or just different things. And like, I've shared, during the United Way campaign, I always kind of challenge you guys of like, to whom much is expected, or to whom much is given, much is expected, right? And so I've always just tried to live my life of like, if you do good by others, you'll get good in return. And it's funny. So like last week, I found out about this on Sunday of last week as I was getting on a plane to go to Wyoming. I went on a ski trip with some friends. And I didn't know what to do. I was just kind of like, oh, and it's really not about me. It's like the platform my parents have given me, the trust they've given me. Megs. But like, look, here's the truth. Megan and I have known each other since third grade. We've been dating since high school. She puts up with a lot of my shit. And like that partnership of someone that you love and care for and the trust that they give you and the respect that they give you, like there are many times where she should have been like, get your ass home or this, or why do you have to go to this thing or whatever. She's a big part of it. And I think the single biggest decision to somebody's success is who your partner is in life and how they support you. And then the last thing I just share is like, we're really incredibly fortunate to have an incredible team from a leadership standpoint who like loves each other, supports each other, respects each other. And like, this is just as much a reflection on like the team and the consistency and stability of the team and doing something together and supporting something together. And we do it because, you know what? We love you, but also like, I say it all the time, like we had someone in December, like our environment isn't for everybody and we need to be okay with that. And when we are okay with that, it cultivates something really special. So I don't know. I knew you were up to something. I didn't know what. I was very specifically told I needed to deliver team meeting in a certain location this morning. But I would tell you I'm very deeply honored. And I'm honored for the opportunity to serve you, but I'm also honored by the opportunity to be recognized in a community that I deeply love and care for. And, it's fun. It's a journey and we'll keep doing it together. So I appreciate the love and support. I know many of you played a part in helping in it. It was fun, on the inverse when Newbie got it a few years ago and then Alicia got it. It was fun to be a part of their journey. So it's, I don't know. I'm just like totally rambling at this point. So the world is run by those who show up. No, I appreciate you guys showing up. I really do. And it really hits me at my core for being recognized in this way in this community. And we'll keep rocking. So cool. All right. Oh, thanks. All right, guys. See you guys. Thanks for showing up.